Thank you very much for staying right here with us. Now, it's time to get talking, so let's indeed get talking. Blyden joins conversation this morning. Blyden, it's a fine morning to have you join us.
A wonderful morning to get talking.
Yeah, and now, how are you feeling ahead of the action later this evening built for Abuja?
Slightly angry.
Angry? Why so?
Come on, it should have been done and dusted in Ghana.
Oh, okay, so this should have been a mere formality.
Of course, the indices were there, everything you needed to. If Guavon had listened to me, the analysis, we would have won that game.
Well, hold your thoughts right there. Now, let's begin a conversation this morning from tennis, where Iga Swiatek, well, looks like there's no stopping this lady now. 14 games in Masters 1000 event. Around the Saturday in Doha, continued in Indian Wells, and now she's reached the quarterfinals here at the third consecutive Masters 1000 event. And we're talking about the event here in Miami, the Miami Open. Well, it has to be some fabulous run for the Polish lady who's aged 20 and set to rise to the top of the WTA rankings when the latest rankings is released at the end of the tournament on Monday. And this has got to be some fabulous story. It's not often you have this, but she's one of 3 youngsters competing in this journey, but she doesn't play anything. You know, you look at her play, there's no semblance of a youngster in it.
Right, James? I think we've talked about Iga Swiatek so much all these years, and she seemed like the biggest name you could think of in recent times. She's world #1 right now. Will be announced on Monday, but all the indices, everything you could think of, shows you're world #1.
Absolutely.
The best tennis player in the female division this year. From Doha, she won the Doha, went to Indian Wells, won it, and now in Miami Open. And she'll be the 4th if she goes on, the 4th to win. After winning Indian Wells, she goes on to win Miami.
Absolutely.
If she gets to win it.
To do the double, sunshine double, as it's called.
It's a big one. It's a big one. Such a big name. The performances are coming in, beginning to seem like the big star we've been looking at. And who knows what could happen in the nearest future. But for Iga Swiatek, it's a moment we can just sit down and hope that we never get to that point where we relinquish this moment. Exceptional tennis player so far for me. Exceptional, big tennis player for me. Not playing like a 20-year-old at all. But it's what it is, and I'm excited that it's happening this way.
All right, now, let's look at the game in very fine detail. She's dropped just 5 games all through this particular competition, and, you know, she dropped the game twice against Coco Gauff. Must give credence to the kind of fight and, of course, the kind of resilience she had to put up to stem the tide. And, of course, the upsurge from the 19-year-old Coco Gauff now.
She's up to 19 yet. I think she's about
18
plus.
You know, we'll turn 19 later this year.
18 plus.
Yeah.
When we talk about the likes of Coco Gauff, I was watching her game, that particular game, and something amazed me about her before I talk about Iga Swiatek's performance. What amazed me was that this 18-year-old is also playing like a superstar.
Yeah.
Probably if she had met another player, maybe she could have gone on to win this game. But she's been on the news, she's been playing consistently. And look at her, young, ready, fighting ultra and hungry. A big game for her against Iga Swiatek, but Iga Swiatek got the win for me at the end of the day. I think it's a big game for an experience for her, Coco Gauff. And looking at Iga Swiatek, dropping some points and getting back is a mark of champions. And these are the situations we want to see champions go through. Drop some points, come back from behind, get the win, and prove to everyone that you're ready for it. I think Iga Swiatek is ready to take up the mantle from Ashley Barty, as far as I'm concerned. I'm looking at her performance. It all started out as a thing of form, but moving on, we might get to see a different class from Iga Swiatek. Can he sustain it for a long time? I do not know. But as long as the performances are coming in, the wins are coming in for Iga Swiatek, I think the tennis world would be excited. And Blyden is very excited with what she's doing in tennis.
Right, now, up next for the Polish, we're talking Iga Swiatek. It's a clash against the 28th seeded. We're talking Petra Kvitova, who was a winner against Veronika Kudermetova early this morning, winning 7-6, 6-4 in what the papers describe as a streaky affair.
Yeah, difficult, big one for me. Big one for Iga Swiatek too. But considering the form, considering the performance, I still stick around Iga Swiatek. I think I'm very impressed with her. Maybe it's me just wanting her to get the numbers and get to a point of becoming being announced a world #1 with the win. That's what I'm looking forward to. But be that as it may, it's going to be a keenly context, very tough context for me. I think in the long run, the woman with the best form would go through it. I think Iga Swiatek will keep it and go through it.
Now, we'll talk about Naomi Osaka breezing through to the next round. The quarterfinals here in the Miami Open, in a bit. But now, let's look at something in their game for Iga Swiatek, young, 20, set to rise to world number 1. And at this stage, a couple of years ago, we had Naomi Osaka in a similar position. She was ranked number 2, and of course was doing well. Played 23 games unbeaten. But of course, when that ended, it was difficult for her to pick herself up again. It's 14 for Iga Swiatek. You think, unlike Naomi Osaka, she's got something different, that extra trigger, that when this run ends, eventually, because it will end someday, she's got that stamina and, of course, that psychological strength to pick herself up again and continue what has been a fairly phenomenal run so far this year.
I think it has been a similar situation in the female game. We'll see young stars rise up to the beating and they get good scores, good results, and they seem to be in form. And it has been a concern with the female division because it seemed like a thing of form. When you're in form and you seem to play well, especially when most people didn't seem to know that you are the baddest girl in town. And suddenly you're playing so well and you're getting the form and getting the result. And everyone's attention is on you right now. And you begin to think about it. Everyone wants to beat you, wants to beat Iga Swiatek. It could be a thing of a problem. But looking at Iga Swiatek, if she doesn't go through the same line that Naomi Osaka went through, which talks about depression and mental health issues, if she doesn't go through that and there are no injuries, I think she looked like a real talent that might sustain it for a while.
All right, now let's talk about Naomi Osaka proper. Now, it's been some journey for her from the top of tennis. She's been on the back foot. She's been in tennis wilderness, if you like to put it that way. But slowly and very steadily, she's working her way back to the top. But that journey hasn't been easy, has it?
No, it's not. It's not been easy. But I think the biggest problem had been the fact that she's not had playing time for a while, considering that issue she had, the depression issue, mental health issues. So she's skipped a couple of tournaments plus a few injuries here and there you could think of. It was a thing of concern for Naomi Osaka at the time, and it's good for the next generation golden girl that we thought she would be coming back and beginning to get the numbers. We saw her at the Miami Open, got 3 wins, a bit step by step. But you can always look at Naomi Osaka and realize the problem had been the fact that she's not had the games. The problem had been the fact that she had not had that level of sharpness and fitness that one would think she would have. But coming to the Miami Open, there's been an improvement. We've seen her win 3 games and had a walkover on the other. But exceptional tennis player on her day. We really hope that moving forward, we might get to see that Naomi Osaka that we used to know. But it's going to be difficult considering who she'll be meeting next.
Right now, on her way to the top a couple of years ago, one thing was very striking for her. Talk about her game management. The rallies, even when she wasn't playing at her absolute best, but she just had a way of, holding on, to put pressure on her opponent. And when the crack, she was just there to pick up the opponent and, turn it around very quickly. That has quickly disappeared from our game. But here in Miami, over the last couple of days, we've seen that slowly crippling back to her game, that match management. How much of a phenomenon would that be for Osaka, when we talk about her rise back to tennis stardom?
Right. One thing that happens to humans in whatever field, especially in sport, is what you have is always what you have. No one can take it away from you. And we've seen it happen in all the sports or all walks of life. We've seen it happen all the time. And it's the same with Naomi Osaka. Playing quite well. She has the ability to manage games, to respond to it. That quick thinking, that fierce reaction and quick reaction. We saw in the game that she played, it was difficult against the American at the time. She really talked about the service, the way it came for her, and how the service was so difficult playing against Allison at the time. And it was very difficult, but we've seen her pick up herself and playing quite well on this one, getting the win. But moving forward, it would be what we have to look at and think about. Naomi Osaka's game, she has to come out and be straight and come out so strongly and play the way she ought to play. But it boils down to match fitness. It boils down to fitness. It boils down to being able to do the things she wants to do and her ability to push through it. I strongly believe, according to Naomi, she said in Indian Wells, that the fact that she's not been playing those games, many games, had made her not to be very sharp. But we really hope that after winning American Allison, she's going to get her sharpness back, because she's played in Indian Wells and now she's in Miami Open consistently playing. All right,
now standing between Naomi Osaka and semi-final Beth is the Australian Open finalists for this year. We're talking Danielle Collins. And now against Danielle Collins in their previous meetings, Naomi Osaka is yet to drop a single set. Now it tells you that the win she's had against Danielle Collins, beyond anything, has been dominant wins. But this is a different Naomi Osaka, not that impervious Naomi Osaka from a few years ago. What kind of clash are you expecting when these two get to meet ahead of the semifinals? Naomi Osaka versus Danielle Collins.
I think from one American to the other, she's played. Started with Allison, and now she's going to meet Danielle Collins. And she's playing in America. It's usually going to be very difficult, one way or the other. But we have to give Danielle Collins that congratulations in terms of credence, rather, in terms of her performances since last year. We saw her in the Australian Open earlier this year. Her performance was top-notch for me. And getting to the finals of a Grand Slam speaks volume. It shows that it's no mean feat of an opponent for you to face. And facing at this time when Naomi Osaka is not in the best form, in the best position, on the best structure of her game that we know, I think it's going to be very difficult. If Naomi gets past Danielle Collins for me, Bright, then I believe Naomi is back.
All right, now for Belinda Bencic, the 22nd seed here, is past Sansanovic, and of course up next would be a clash against Wildcat. We're talking Daria Savio, we understand. Now let's quickly leave the WTA and head to the ATP. And now talking about journey back to the top, back to tennis stardom, that has got to be the story of Daniil Medvedev. And boy, it's looked really sharp, and it's looked like a man on a mission here in Indian Wells. No, did I say Indian Wells? Miami Open, I beg for pardon.
It's what it is. We expected it to happen, especially when you're not having the likes of Djokovic participate in this competition.
Absolutely.
So when you have
the likes of Rafa Nadal who are not competing.
Nadal too not competing. So you really expect that Medvedev will go back to the top, the very top. All that was needed was to get to the next round and probably, who knows, and play quite well. He's gone through the ranks, played a few games. We've seen the difficult rounds that he's had.
Absolutely.
But his showing class, remember I really talked about the possibility of the likes of Andy Murray creating an upstate, but it wasn't going to happen.
Not this time.
Have continued to play and show class, and is playing quite well, moving to the 4th round, and meeting the likes of Justin Bronsby in the next round would be difficult. But it had to be good performance at the last round, where he had to beat 15-seeded Roberto Bautista Agut to get to this position. For me, I'm happy for Medvedev. I really hope that he goes all the way and gets to the world #1 position.
All right, now, talking about Medvedev, so of Pedro Martinez in this particular clash on your screen now, you look at the headlines. It's Medvedev motos in Miami, so it's been a cruise for him so far, and all he needs to return to the top of the ATP rankings is get to the semifinals of this particular. You see anyone or any stumbling block as he gets set to return to the zenith of tennis?
Well, tennis is not a jolly affair, Brad James. I remember at Indian Wells, we thought it was going to be a smooth movement for Medvedev until he fell. And we've seen similar situations happening in tennis.
Absolutely.
We've seen the likes of Tsitsipas struggle. We've seen the likes of Vera struggle.
Absolutely.
At a point we think that they're going to go all out, get a clutch on their opponent, and be on the wheels, driving front and getting those results. And it's not forthcoming. I think Medvedev ought to be very careful, because the pressure is increasing right now. You have to get to the semifinals and get the win. And every player he meets wants to create an upset.
Absolutely.
What would be a better news? So stop Medvedev from becoming a world #1 at so time. It could be the news you could want to. I would want to be in that position to stop Medvedev. I think the likes of Alcaraz are looking forward to that. And name them. Every player seems to be waiting for Medvedev at this point. The pressure is much. He ought to bring his arsenals together and see how he can get a result, getting to the semifinals and become a world #1 again.
Well, let me tell you of a man very quickly who's nursing those ambitions of stopping Daniil Medvedev from returning to the very zenith of the ATP tennis. Well, this man has got his own ambition. He's an American. He's 21. We're talking about Jensen Brooksby, who saw off the man Roberto Bautista Agut, seated 15th in this particular tourney to set up this mouth-watering clash against the second seed here in this particular tournament. Now, let's leave there and talk about some phenomenon. Carlos Alcaraz, quite a journey for him, Blyden. This year, this time last year rather, he was ranked 132 in the world. 1 year later, Blyden, he's ranked at a career high number 16. What a journey.
And he's 20. Wow. It's massive. These are the kind of stories we hear in the sports, tennis in particular. That's one thing I really like about tennis.
He didn't run, he flew.
It's not being Alcaraz alone. Look at a few players. You always hear players trying to quench the numbers, close the gap. And it starts with all the tours, get those wins at the tours. But it has been a steady progress for Alcaraz in terms of performances from Indian Wells and 9 Miami Open. We're seeing those performances, and he doesn't seem to want to slow down at this point. Exciting for me. It still goes back to the prediction I made about him at some time ago.
Yeah.
I'll keep talking about it. We're looking at, in the nearest future, the next world number 1.
Well, you said 2 years, so very particular. I can't forget that.
Well, I did shift it after.
Now you're trying to be
now
political about it. You said 2 years, Blyden.
Political. Okay, let me use the word diplomatic about it. I'm diplomatic.
You've had a rethink now.
Yeah, I'm diplomatic about it, but in the nearest future seems to make me in a safe position.
Well, again, now, if he's moved how many places from 132 to 16 in less than a year, then with the way he's going on this kind of meteoric rise, he come back again in the next 2 years. World number 1 at this rate looks very feasible.
Yeah, I agree, but it has to mean that the likes of Medvedez have to slow down. The likes of Rafael Nadal must slow down. The likes of Djokovic must slow down for that to happen. Well, they cannot be up there all year long. They can't be all there. There ought to be a point where the big gongs will slow down and the younger generation take over. It could be in the next 2 years, who knows? It could be the next 3, but surely, potentially, if injury doesn't stop him, the next world number 1 will most likely be Alcaraz in the nearest future.
Right, now, let's talk about a man that was standing his way in achieving that ambition. It's got to be world number 5, Stefanos Tsitsipas. Well, it's had some topsy-turvy years so far, a little here, a little there in terms of his form and, of course, fortunes. That's particularly about this is her clash she would fancy as well. But Carlos Alcaraz is a big guy. In their ATP head-to-head, Alcaraz leads Tsitsipas by a game to nothing following what he pulled up in the US Open last year.
A big game, but you have to believe one thing or realize one thing, that the stocks of Tsitsipas had really gone up. And that's why he's at top 5. Good player on his day, but he's had a disappointing year so far, getting to the tours, and most times when he looks like the top seed in the competition, he doesn't get to win it. So it becomes a struggling affair one way or the other. Tsitsipas and Zverev. And when you watch them, you begin to wonder, when are they going to pick that form and become that fearsome force we know? It's not happening in recent times. And I think Alcaraz will be looking on that and said, in recent times, Tsitsipas has been dropping points, not getting those wins he ought to. Maybe I can take him to the cleaners, but it's going to be very tough. It's a game Tsitsipas will really want to recover and show the world that he's back. And it would be better to recover against a young lad who seemed like a prodigy of becoming world number 1. Be that as it may, if Alcaraz for me beats Tsitsipas, I'm taking Alcaraz even more seriously.
This young man isn't playing like his age. He's playing nothing. Kind of tennis is playing is nothing like tennis. It should be played at his age. So much maturity, so much power, so much composure.
He brings in a lot of aggression.
Absolutely, rarely cracks in such big occasions. Facing very intimidating crowd, but he's kept his eye on the prize, and of course, he's just gone about playing tennis, and that has brought him thus far. Well, let me recap it for you. The meteoric rise of this man you're watching on your screen, the Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz, moved from 132. This time last year, was ranked number 132. But consistency, hard work, and of course, sheer determination, belief, and a whole lot have come together to, of course, see this man rise to world number 16. How far can he go? Well, that we can't say for now. We'll just keep monitoring this youngster. But one thing you're very sure here is that we'll keep reporting him back to you every time he does something silly in quotes.
I think in a while I've not used the word massive. Let me use it.
All right.
That's massive.
Let me allow you the luxury of
that's
using
massive, and it's often said when you're young, it's time to take a lot of risks.
Yeah.
And the young man is taking a lot of risks, doing everything on the court.
Playing fearless tennis. You know, he doesn't care about anybody. Doesn't care about anything. Well, let's leave him.
Before we leave, one of these days I'll challenge you in a tennis game.
Tennis game. Okay.
I'll be fearless at it too.
Be very careful. Be careful what you wish for. Right? Be careful. You never know what you're up against. Be careful.
This one I know.
Okay. Well,
is it not Brad James?
Well, boxing you may know.
Okay.
Tennis you can't quite say.
The other time I wanted to take you on a Formula One track, you were scared. So who knows what will happen in tennis?
Well, I know you could be a Formula One driver Formula E driver on your day. But,
why not Z then?
Formula One, don't push it. Don't push it, Blyden. Don't push it.
I won't go there.
All right, now let's quickly leave here and.